Hello, this is Pat McGibbon and Alan Below from ITR at MFG 2012. We just finished an economic panel, and Alan's going to share with us some of the insights that he shared with our entire organization over the course of the last hour and a half. Now, Alan, ITR has a unique way about approaching the forecasting business. Can you share that real quick?
Yes, happy to, Pat. It's a four-pronged approach. We look at what's going on in the world. You have to know what's going on. You can't just use an econometric model. You have to see the nuances, the politics, and the cultural changes that are going on. You also have to have a solid set of leading indicators, and that's key. Most people kind of skip that part. A good set of leading indicators tells you what's going to be happening in the medium term, 6 to 12 months. We also use endogenous trend characteristics, so it's normal. And then we use our ITR cyclical theory, which is unique. You mentioned Helen Langwasser earlier. Her predecessor, the founder of our organization, Chapin Hoskins, developed some theories which Helen used. She passed to Brian. Brian and I are still using them today. They are unique to ITR, and they are exceptionally accurate. They help drive our 94.7% accuracy rating.
Yes, and it's been one of the strongest forecasts in our industry over the course of the last 30 years that I've been involved with the program. Now, Alan, you had some very positive things to say about where we've been and where we're going to go from here to 2014. Can you share that with us?
Sure. It's hard not to be positive, Pat, because of the leading indicator activity. It's pointing up. For the vast majority of them are pointing up, and how can you not be enthused?
Absolutely.
You have an accommodated Federal Reserve Board, and only a fool bets against the Fed.
Yeah.
At the same time, you have exports up, banks are lending, employment trend is healthy, exports and employment and in the international scene, all of it points towards more opportunity as we go forward. Retail sales are a little weak. We would like to see that a little stronger, but I think the extension of the payroll tax cuts are going to help that, and some more employment with some mild wage inflation. We're going to see that the retail sales activity remain positive, and we will see the economy expand through 12 and through at least the middle of 2013. Now, you mentioned 14.
Right.
Just to be sure we're clear, we are looking for a mild recession in 2014 in the U.S. economy, and we're likely to see that in Europe as well.
Okay, and you mentioned that banks are starting lending. One of the things you also pointed out, and it's one of my pet peeves, is that there's $1.5 trillion sitting in excess reserves in the Federal Reserve, the bank with the lowest interest rate and the greatest return for the banks themselves. How do we get that $1.5 trillion back into the economy? I know we got members that are customers having a hard time getting loans. You made a cute little joke about. I forgot, what was it?
If you have $1 million, you can probably borrow $900,000.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. If you have $1 million, you can borrow $900,000. And our members' customers, small companies, 90 employees or less, are running into that exact same situation with the banks. You got any ideas about how we get that $1.5 trillion off the sidelines and into the game?
Yeah, sure. We raise interest rates. The Fed keeping interest rates so low is a negative inducement to lend.
Yes.
If banks could lend at a higher rate, they would take on more risk. That's why what the joke was aimed at. They want a no-risk environment at these very low rates. So let's move them up 200 basis points, and you start seeing people lend more money. But the Fed is pushing the borrower and trying to incent the borrower and not incent the lender. I think they're pushing at the wrong end.
One of the things you just was mentioning about is that getting more of the more consumer spending into the program. We've got the service guys getting some profitability. Manufacturers have been on a profitable basis for the last couple of years. You got to be encouraged by seeing the consumer confidence index starting to creep forward a little bit faster pace than it has over the last year.
Actually, Pat, to me, the consumer confidence index is a meaningless economic indicator.
Okay. Wow.
It has nothing to do with life. In 20 years of doing this, I have found that its accuracy is meaningless and its direction tells you nothing.
So when you look at what's going to happen with consumer spending, what's the indicator you focus in on then?
We look at the money supply, we look at disposable personal income, and we look at the velocity of money. And as we look at those things, it remains a tepid outlook in 2012 for consumer spending.
Okay. And we've talked a little bit about the United States markets, but a lot of our members bleed over the edges of the U.S. into the rest of the NAFTA organization. What about Canada and Mexico?
Canada's got a vibrant economy, potentially. I mean, they're going through the end of their recession and moving into recovery phase the same as we are. Their outlook has got to be considered strong and vibrant because they have a solid banking system, a great housing industry, lots of natural resources. They can manufacture and sell around the world. Their labor costs are higher than the U.S., but still very globally competitive. Canada's got a tremendous future ahead of her, and I think that their backfilling with immigration is reasonable and effective, I would bet a lot of money on Canada. Mexico, as we discussed, great potential, but makes me nervous because of the criminality and the danger there. And if I can quote General Hayden on that, who used to head the NSA, CIA, different tenures, if the criminality becomes insurgency, then foreign direct investment dries up, and all sorts of three-lettered organizations in the U.S. become involved.
Yeah, those ones we're not allowed to talk about.
That's right, and then things change dramatically for business down there. So we're at a very tenuous point in Mexico's development. They need to get this under control if they're going to become a top-tier producing nation.
And with respect to, come back to the United States for this moment, the strength of the dollar, the inflation, you had some interesting perspective in there as well.
I think that we are going to see some mild inflationary pressures in 2012. And the Fed's going to ignore them because they look at core inflation adjusted, and they're missing out on what's happening with the consumer. As some of that inflation gets into the system, it makes life difficult for people, and we believe that it'll be one of those factors that feeds into the recession scenario of 2014. Inflation will do that to people. As their standard of living goes down, they buy less because they're worried about food and gas.
And the dollar?
And through time, through the near term, the dollar remains strong and vibrant because people are worried about every other currency. As you and I talked about, the RMB is essentially pegged. Right. I mean, who's going to go to the real at this point? The loonie is too small. The euro scares people at this point. So they're going to stay with the dollar. Longer term, where our balance sheet as a nation is continuing to go in the wrong direction, if the Europeans pull together a political union, and because they are moving towards austerity, we could find in 10 years that the euro is actually a much stronger currency than the US dollar. But that's an if, that's 10 years out. Through the near term, dollar remains vibrant. You're not going to see a lot of weakening in the euro. I know that Adrian had a different point of view than me. I don't think you're going to see a tremendous fall in the value of the euro because I think the iceberg is going by the side of the ship. And we're going to see that some stability and about where we are now is a reasonable level of exchange.
And with respect to the election that's coming up this fall, its impact on where we're going to be heading in, of course, the next 2-3 years?
Yeah, presidential election, absolutely nothing. That's a lot of noise. They actually don't control the thing. They can become a chief cheerleader and they can make suggestions, but they can't enact a single piece of legislation.
It's an interesting picture in my head there about Obama doing a split.
I'll let you deal with your therapist on that one, Pat.
Well, anything else you wanted to say about the perspective on manufacturing technology going out into past 2014, kind of wrap this up?
Sure, I think 15, 16, and 17 are good years, and as you know from our conversation in the room, I'm high in American manufacturing technology. Yeah. We are well positioned as a nation for a nice, strong run, and we're going to gain in manufacturing jobs, we're going to gain in output. We have a nice competitive position globally right now, and as long as we don't get interference of a federal nature in terms of our cost basis and tax basis, we should find that we're bringing more jobs to the U.S., we're producing more, and we're able to export it around the world. I am very high on American manufacturing.
And for people that are going to be exhibiting at IMTS 2012, that's got to be great news. So this is Pat McGibbon and Alan Beaulieu from MFG 2012.
The world's premier industrial automation event is coming to North America, and it's going to be co-located with IMTS 2012. Industrial Automation North America will showcase products and solutions for production automation, complementing the IMTS focus on machine tools, metalworking, and precision manufacturing. This is the first time that this world-class automation event will join forces with IMTS to offer visitors a more comprehensive range of manufacturing and automation solutions. This event is the result of a strategic partnership between Hanover Fairs International, a subsidiary of Deutsche Messe AG, Hanover, Germany, and the Association for Manufacturing Technology. Industrial Automation North America will also offer its own conference and educational opportunities. The partnership will attract more exhibiting companies and attendees and bolster recognition for both IMTS and Industrial Automation North America as the continent's leading destination for manufacturing technology. So if you are considering automation in your shop, make sure to stop in and see this world-class industrial automation display only at IMTS 2012. Be there.